People from all different walks of life in the UK are realising that it might be a good idea to be prepared for a disaster. In this video, I want to talk about some ideas that might help you get started with prepping. Hi, this is Everyday Prepper. Welcome to the channel. So there's been a lot of coverage in the media lately, especially about the Deputy Prime Minister suggesting that Brits stock up on candles and analogue radios and various items that we could use in the event of, I suppose, a grid down scenario, which is what a lot of people in the preparedness community are prepared for. Now, when I first got started prepping, as a lot of other people may do the same, which is go online and do a search for prepping or getting started prepping or beginning prepping, and come across various YouTube channels and online websites about it, and then you get yourself started, and then you start to follow various channels, and you might find that actually the only thing that you really need to be preparing for is nuclear war on a daily basis. And this is what I found, and I was thinking, I don't even own a gas mask. I probably should do. I've got some potassium iodide tablets, that's about it, and some gaffer tape. Never forget the gaffer tape. So what I realised as I started building up some supplies was there's no real necessarily event that you need to prepare for, because if you're preparing for an event, you're always going to prepare for the wrong one. So the way I would look at it now is, if you imagine, this is a little game really, if you imagine a scenario where you're locked away in or not necessarily locked away, but you're having to stay in a log cabin in the middle of, by the way, some of you may have noticed I'm in a slightly different location. I'm actually on my boat, which is a bit of a bug out location for me, and that's that creaking in the background is the ropes on the mooring, because it's a bit windy out, and it's very dark and very eerie outside, so I thought I'd come down here, and because this is quite isolated, and try and record the video down here, but we'll have to see how it goes. I may have to go back to base. Where was I? So log cabin. So imagine if you're in a log cabin and you've got to stay there for 2 weeks, and you're about 100 miles from any supplies or any medical help or emergency services, and you've got no mains water, you've got no mains sewage, drainage or electricity or gas, no mains of anything, and you've got to take with you enough for 2 weeks to make sure that you survive in reasonable comfort. Now that's how I would start prepping now. I would look at my house and go, right, if I had no water, no mains, no sewage, no nothing, no electric or gas, what would I need to survive for a couple of weeks? Now, let's tone that down a little bit. When you're first getting started, 2 weeks, when you actually work out how much you need, that's quite a lot, quite a big ask. So start maybe with 72 hours, 3 days. And work it out from there. And the reason I like the sort of thought experiment with the wood cabin is it just focuses you on that one specific thing. You're isolated away from everybody else. You've really got to think about your own survival. So if you cut yourself or if you break your leg in 5 places, there's no medical help. What are you going to do? You're going to need to learn some skills as to how to make things good until help arrives. Now, the other thing you could do is when you get to the end of that 2 weeks, when all the supplies are supposed to come back online and everything's going to be hunky-dory, you get a little message saying, oh, really sorry, on the last day, but we're going to be another week. So now what are you going to do? Your supplies, well, you've taken enough for 2 weeks and now you've got absolutely nothing. So have you got the skills to go out and get the resources and survive for another week? And that's the way I would look at it now. So so there's some things that I would recommend specifically that you would need to do to get started in prepping. First of all, you want to start storing some water, some drinkable water. Now, if you're lucky like me, I've got a house with a back garden where I've redirected the drain pipes into quite a few water barrels out in the back garden. So I can collect rainwater all year long, and I've got hundreds and hundreds of litres. Now, I wouldn't necessarily want to use that for drinking. I could do, because I've got a filtration system, but I would use that maybe for washing. So if you go with the maxim of for one person you need 1 gallon of water per person per day, and so that's not all for drinking. The 2 litres of that would be for drinking, maybe a little bit more, especially if you're exerting yourself as you would do in a grid down situation. the rest will be for washing and cleaning and that kind of stuff. Now, if you've got a load of water collection out in the backyard, then that'll be really handy, which means that any water that you've stored, which is pure water, like bottled water, then you've got more for drinking, which is even better. So 2 weeks worth of water just for one person, when you work it out, is actually quite a lot. I'm not going to go into it now. I've done that in another video. It's a lot of water. When you start factoring in a whole family and pets and what have you, there's quite a lot of drinking water. Then what I'd start doing is just get some extra tins. Every time you go down the supermarket, stock up on a few tins here and there. Don't go mad, because you don't want to attract attention to yourself and get accused of hoarding. Just do it, a couple of extra tins each shop. That's all you need to do. It doesn't cost you a quid, current prices, and start popping those aside. Now, the average adult needs about 2,000 calories a day. In a grid down situation, you're probably going to be needing a little bit more than that. Certainly if you're lifting logs around and doing repairs and that kind of stuff, you're going to be exerting a lot more. You're going to be doing a lot more physical activity, so you might need more calories. So when you're buying the tins, keep that in mind. Have a look at what calories are. Make sure they're good calories as well, so you've got a mixture of protein, sort of balanced food in there, not just all meat or all vegetable, but a mixture of both. So some corned beef, stuff like that, some tinned vegetables. Try and keep the salt down. Maybe have them stored in spring water rather than salt, although they may not last quite as long. Tinned fruit, all those things are great, and you can store them away and they store for a long time. If you look at the best before dates on them, they're usually a good couple of years. And then just rotate that. If it's coming up towards the end of a use by date, then you can just use it up. And so always buy stuff you like, buy stuff you're going to eat, and then you can use that up and then replace it as you go. Another thing I'd strongly recommend is just educate yourself on what kind of scenarios you may be likely to come across. Have a look on the news over the last say 5 years in the UK, and look at what has happened, what disasters have happened, what issues have arisen that you might want to prepare for. Pick 2 or 3 that you think might be likely to happen again. We had a fuel crisis twice in my area in the last couple of years, so guaranteed it's going to happen again at some point. So I now have a bit of fuel stored, and I rotate it because apparently it doesn't last too long, but I don't want to get caught out again. When I say educate yourself, really good idea would be to read up. It's quite hard to find decent prepping books online, but one book I'd really recommend is the Survival Medicine Guide. I think that's what it's called. Survival Medicine Handbook, or Survival Medical Handbook by J. Alton, I believe it is. I'll put a link in the description. Fantastic book. It's geared specifically towards prepping, but the information in there is absolutely fantastic, and it also tells you about the mindset and the kind of scenarios you're likely to come across in grid down situations or societal breakdowns, that kind of stuff. So other thing, certainly in the UK, things you want to be prepared for is weather, extreme weather. That was the other thing I was going to say was with the log cabin scenario, if you imagine that you're in there for 2 weeks, and during that 2 weeks you need to experience, or you're going to experience, the whole 4 seasons, especially summer and winter. So let's say an extreme summer and an extreme winter and autumn with all the rain. You're going to experience all of that. So have you got the tools and the skills and the materials to be able to repair the roof if it blows off or a tree goes on it, just until help can arrive? The book I was talking about is geared towards a scenario where medical help is never going to arrive. So it's pretty brutal, but it's very, very comprehensive. Hopefully we're not going to be in a situation anytime soon where everything absolutely breaks down forever or for a long, long time. It's most likely there's going to be pockets of SHTF around the country at various times for various people. It could even be a personal SHTF. Something happens, financial, you have a financial problem, or or a problem with your house that nobody else can really help you with, or nobody else wants to help you with. You need to be prepared for that. So look around at your own circumstances and evaluate what you might need to do for you closer to home, and then start having a look at various disasters that could happen around the country. There's a lot of really eerie noises on this boat tonight. It sounds like people are boarding the boat, but hopefully not. Now, one of the most important aspects starting prepping, and I probably should have put this at the start really, is your own personal fitness. Now, in a grid down situation, you're going to be exerting a lot more energy than you normally would. Evaluate, can you run 100 yards? Can you run 200 yards? Can you run a kilometre, without collapsing? Could you carry someone 100 yards if need be? Could you lift up large amounts of wood and stack them across the other side of your property? Could you climb up a ladder and hold yourself steady for several hours if you had to fix something? So, if the answer to this is no or not sure, then check on your own fitness and make sure that you can at least get about. Now, I'm 52. I'm starting to see muscle atrophy. I do weight train, but when I'm not weight training, the muscle just disappears miraculously. It's a lot harder to put back on now. So if you're in your 20s and you're in a physically active job, or any age really, if you're in a very physically active job, or you do a lot of physical activities outside of work, then you're going to be okay. But if you're not, and you're in a sedentary job and a sedentary lifestyle, then you might want to just do something like NHS Couch to 5K app. I found that absolutely fantastic, just to get yourself outside, breathing, walking, and slow jogging, and it works you all the way up to 5K. I've done a couple of park runs now. Park run New Year's Day was fantastic. All of these help towards your cardiovascular fitness, which is going to really be called upon in an SHTF situation. Talking of fitness, in my last video, I decided to go outside in Storm Henk in 80-mile-an-hour gusts of wind and try and bake a loaf of bread out in the barbecue using a Dutch oven. Now, whilst I was putting up the tarp and trying to wrestle with the wood that was holding the tarp in the gutter, I really did my neck in. So you may see that I can't really move very much. And that was about a week ago. So it just shows that it doesn't take much to do yourself in. It's a bit embarrassing, really. I should be more physically fit than that. And I have been at times, but it just happened to be that those winds really took it out of me. So it's a bit of a wake-up call for me as well. So look, I may do a part 2 for this with a bit more detail on specifics that you might want to prepare for, but getting started is pretty easy. It doesn't have to cost you a fortune. It's more about a mindset really, and knowing what your current situation is, evaluating everything around you, and maybe just do a little bit of research. But the key is to not go stressing about an imminent disaster happening tomorrow. There are a lot of channels on YouTube that will say, every single day you're going to get nuclear war, we're going to war, we're going to be conscripted, we're going to be attacked. I've been prepping for years now, and some of these channels have been saying that every day for years. It's just not happening. In the meantime, serious preppers just want to make sure that you've got supplies, you've got stuff in case of realistic situations that are going to happen. I've had a few realistic situations that have happened that I've had to use my preps for, and it's been great. So try and enjoy the process and not get too negged out on all the fear that's out there. There's enough of it on the news and everything else. Get yourself kitted up, get yourself fit and active, and enjoy some peace of mind of having an element of preparedness wherever you are. If you found this helpful, please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel, because we're going to do a lot more content like this. And on that note, I do want to just put out a thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. I just recently hit 500 subscribers, which is, if you'd have told me that just over a month ago when I started the channel, or back in November last year, I would have laughed. I really didn't imagine it. I remember the first video I did, waiting for just one view. It took ages. So yeah, I really appreciate the support, and it continually motivates me to try and get good prepping content out there. The more preppers in the UK, the better. We need more prepper channels in the UK. I've seen that there's been some comments where people are saying that they're thinking about starting their own channel, and that's fantastic. That's great. We need more. The more people that are prepared for disaster in the UK, the less burden it is on the emergency services, but also us as preppers. It means there'll be less people knocking on your door begging for food because they're already prepped. That's the way I look at it. We'll leave it there for now. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching, and stay prepared.